Necromancers are probably my favorite trope in all of fantasy and Dungeons and Dragons. They're wicked and clever, and they make great villains. But whenever we use them in a game, they always seem to be much stronger than what we could build them as players, at least within the rules of D&D 5e. But no longer! Today we're building out our own Necromancer to see just how powerful we can make them with their own horde of undead. An undead army so big it could make an entire city cower in fear and bend the knee. Just how big of an army can we make within the rules as written? First, we need to lay out a few very basic ground rules. 1, no legendary items, so no Tome of the Still Tongue given to us from Vecna. 2, we need a time limit, so we're going to launch our assault in exactly 365 days, or 1 year. 3, we're going to use the Adventurers League rules for Simulacrum, so no Simulacrum Wish Infinite Wizards combo here, we'll just get the 1. And 4, the final number we're going for is the most summons, not necessarily the strongest summons, which is subjective, so we'll just make as many undead as we humanly can, or unhumanly can. But first, I want to give a huge shout out for our sponsor for today's Necromancy build, Jetpack 7 with their new 5th edition book, Legendary Dragons. Now, I am particularly excited about this book because, well, I'm a contributing writer for it. But seriously, this thing has a ton of incredible contributors like Dan Dillon, who after this project was picked up by the Wizards of the Coast staff for his amazing talent, James J. Hayek, who co-authored Dragon Heist and the Critical Role Tal'Dorei setting book, and of course, Jim Pinto, who was a writer for Legend of the Five Rings, Masters and Minions, and Jetpack 7's previous title, Gods and Goddesses. Legendary Dragons is all about dragons, with new dragon races, dragon riders, dragon hunters, new kobolds, layers, aerial combat options, and of course, legendary dragons, which were created to devastate your party in any campaign setting. I'll throw a link down below for you guys to go check out Legendary Dragons, which is now available for pre-order. Having seen the beta versions myself, this is going to be a hell of a book and a great DM tool for some killer dragon-inspired campaigns. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is go over the build. And while I usually make these ultimate builds much more focused on being unique with interesting multi-classing, the reality is that this build is pretty straightforward with 20 levels in Wizard. Every way I looked at trying to cut another class in, looking at Warlock, Sorcerer, Death Domain Cleric, hell, even Druid, it just weakened the build, and while the Wizard's capstone isn't usually very overwhelming, for this build, it is in fact actually pretty useful. Not to mention, we really needed 20 levels in Wizards to really help us regain 2 5th level spell slots with our Arcane Recovery. So the build, in short, is basically 20 levels in Wizard. I went with Drow personally as I like the idea of the character building its vast network of undead in the Underdark before rising to the surface world in the dead of night to claim what is rightfully theirs. But you can honestly take whatever you want. Even feats here aren't going to matter much, so if you want a halfling necromancer with lucky and charger, go nuts. What really matters is our spell slots and how we use them to their utmost efficiency when building our army. Oh, and of course, we're not going to be just any wizard if we want to actually take the school of necromancy, right? Go figure. So let's take a look at our engine to steal from my Magic the Gathering background here a bit. What makes this thing actually work? What are the spells and abilities that actually matter to us? First, we have our School of Necromancy abilities. There are only 2 that really matter to us at this point. Our 6th level ability, Undead Thralls, which makes our summons a bit stronger and lets our spell Animate Dead get 1 additional zombie every time we cast it. The other ability is our level 14 ability, Command Undead, which allows us to take an undead servant permanently if they fail a single charisma save. This has one caveat that will be very important later on, which is if the undead that we target with this ability has an intelligence of 8 or more, it gets advantage on that save, and if it has an intelligence of 12 or more, it can try to break free every single hour, which is, as we say in Texas, no bueno. So we'll need to pick out something to target with this later on that has an intelligence of 11 or lower. If it fails once, it's ours forever, or at least until we target something else with it. Okay, next up in our engine is the spells. There are a total of 3 spells in our engine that will create undead for us to control, with the 4th spell, Simulacrum, being a nice to have to get our final number up for our horde. The first 2 spells need to be constantly cast to maintain control over our zombies, which we definitely will want to do. And the final one allowing us to make permanent horde members. First up is Animate Dead. Animate Dead is a level 3 spell that gives us 1 zombie or skeleton from a pile of bones or a corpse for 24 hours, after which we will need to recast this spell so we can maintain control over them. But a couple of quick notes. When we cast it at higher levels, we gain an additional 2 zombies per spell level, and our Undead Thralls ability gives us 1 more zombie as a bonus as well. So with a level 3 spell slot, we can make 2. With the level 4 spell slot, we can make or recontrol 4 zombies or skeletons, and level 5, we can make 6, and so on. The next spell that we need to look at is Create Undead. Create Undead is a 6th level spell that allows us to make 3 ghouls when we cast it. So on the surface, if we're trying to make the largest undead horde we can, it's actually less efficient than Animate Dead with a level 6 spell slot, as Animate Dead at level 6 would instead give us 8 zombies for each of those spell slots. However, when we look at casting Create Undead at higher levels, very specifically with a level 8 and a level 9 spell slot, it allows us to create instead 2 whites at 8 and 3 whites with a level 9 spell slot. This is important for us as it actually becomes more efficient to use on our 2 highest spell slots on whites, as each white can kill their own victims in order to have them raise as zombies 24 hours later under the white's control, for a maximum of 12 zombies under each white's control, effectively giving us 26 additional undead for our level 8 spell slot, and additional 39 undead with our level 9 spell slot. The next spell in our engine is the level 7 spell, Finger of Death. Finger of Death, in short, lets you finger gun someone to death and then immediately raise them as a zombie. Permanently. That's it. That's literally what the spell does. I'm not even kidding. And finally, let's look at the last spell we will be using and abusing for our biggest undead horde army in a year, Simulacrum. You can create a duplicate of yourself. It has the same abilities, which is important, and remaining spell slots as the person that you are duplicating, i.e. yourself minus 1 level 7 spell slot, which you will use to cast it. It does not regain spell slots, and we're going to go rules as intended here, so no pearls of power for it to regain them artificially. And then we have a couple of basic wizard abilities that will be relevant for us. The first being Arcane Recovery, which will give us back 2 level 5 spell slots on a short rest, and the wizard's capstone signature spells, which gives us 2 spells of level 3 or lower that we can cast once for free, which does reset on a short rest. So basically 2 additional casts of Animate Dead at level 3. The only things remaining are the magic items, which, if you'll remember our rules, we said cannot be legendary items. For our max undead horde in a year, we'll need 6 topaz spell gems, 3 for us and 3 for our Simulacrum to use when the time is right. Though in truth, this is a totally artificial number, as the attunement required is only for the person casting into the spell gem, not the person using it. But if we really wanted to cheese this, we could just say that, well, we have enough for our characters to imbue 2 every single day for the entire year, which would in theory add an additional 5,776 zombies to our final number on the day of our assault. But seeing as how they are very rare, but not legendary, I chose to just use 6 for my calculations for this video. Just enough for our character to attune to 3 and imbue them with the level 6 Animate Dead each, and then attune to the last 3 and imbue them again. And finally, the last part of the puzzle is 3 pearls of power to regenerate, a few level 3 spell slots, and the scroll crafting rules inside of Xanathar's Guide to Everything, found on page 133. Which will allow us to craft 1 level 3 scroll per week at 52 weeks with a total cost of 26,000 golds worth of materials. This, naturally, will be used to create 52 Animate Dead spell scrolls over the course of our year, just in time for our climactic fight with a few days left over in our original 365. So naturally, we need to understand where to start. You know, besides the journey from level 1 to 20 and our seething hatred for all of mankind and desire to make them tremble in fear at our awesome power, we need to start on day 1 of our journey with a simple 12-hour spell. You know, simple. Simulacrum. Because we want our duplicate to have as many spell slots as possible. Then we are going to follow that up with Finger of Death on a few townsfolk, using our remaining level 7 spell slot, our level 8 spell slot, and our level 9 spell slot. Then we can really cast a few more spells to just get the ball rolling on our undead. But honestly, protecting ourselves at this point is far more important than trying to amass a huge army immediately. Naturally, we will also begin our quest to scribe 52 weeks worth of Animate Dead scrolls, and we will want to do this while we are on the hunt. But what are we hunting for, you say? 2 Mummy Lords. Remember that little 14th level necromancy ability called Command Undead? That's right, we want to use it on our very own Mummy Lord. Why? Because the Mummy Lord just so happens to have an 11 intelligence score, and just like the whites we will be making later, it can create more undead for us with its own spellcasting slots, which it has in bundles, and just so happens to have Animate Dead on its spell list. So with its low intelligence, that means that if we can take control of it once, we take control of it forever. And because our simulacrum is a complete duplicate of ourselves, it can also control its very own Mummy Lord permanently. Each Mummy Lord will add a total of 32 undead to our horde. The Mummy Lord itself, and converting all of its higher level spell slots into more Animate Dead spells, it will give us 31 more zombies or skeletons each. From this point, we want to spend the remaining days of our year taking into account the fact that we will need enough time to summon our whites, have our whites kill their own victims, wait 24 hours for them to raise as zombies. Our remaining days will be spent on casting 4 Fingers of Death per day, minus the days that we will use our level 8 and level 9 spell slots on our whites. Scribing our scrolls, we'll also need to maintain control over any undead that we've already summoned, and we need to prepare the meager little 6 spell gems that we've accumulated, with additional Animate Undead spells. On the final day, we will have our simulacrum finally cast their first spells and burn through all of their spell slots on Animate Dead. Not to create undead for more whites, as the whites victims take 24 hours to raise and our duplicate will not have the spell slots to reassert control over those whites. And we will burn through all 52 of our spell scrolls, which will synergize with our Undead Thrall's ability and create an additional 104 zombies or skeletons. The 6 Topaz spell gems will give us an additional 48 zombies, and after a short 10-minute rest, we can regain 2 level 5 spell slots to animate even more undead, and we'll have a grand total of 1,906 undead at our command, or at the command of those we command. If we're tossing the book out completely on spell gems, which technically would still fit within our initial rules, we would have a total of 7,682 undead at our command, if of course we could find enough bodies to even resurrect at that point. And there you have it, the ultimate summon Necromancer and how to raise an army as big as possible without legendary items within 1 year, while even binding yourself to the Adventurers League rules for Simulacrum. And outside of the spell gems, which added less than 100 summons to our complete total, the scrolls and pearls would cost you less than 30,000 gold in total, which is actually quite feasible by level 20. And hell, the scrolls only added 104 themselves, so even without that, you'd still be looking at over 1,700 undead and a total cost of like 5,000 gold, with enough to pay for the ruby for Simulacrum. And for those of you who are interested in just how good would this build be at lower levels, even by level 15, you gain access to 1 level 7 spell slot and 1 level 8, which would easily let you break 1,200 undead in the same time for practically nothing in gold cost. All right, what do you guys think? How hard would this be to actually pull off? What would you do as a DM if a player started amassing over 300 undead? How would you handle it if they really wanted to raise 1,000 undead? If anything, I think that it gives a little credence to necromancers as villains in our games, as actually being plausible within the rules as written. Would you put a stop to a player trying to become the ultimate necromancer, or would you turn their hunt for a pair of mummy lords into the next campaign arc if the group really wanted to try to pull something like this off? Let us know down below. I, of course, want to give a huge shout out to all of the amazing patrons over at welcomeadventures.com. Guys, it's because of you that I can keep doing stupid, dumb videos like this. Thank you. It's fun. It's a lot of fun to do. If you guys like what I do here, you want to support more content like this and grab some rewards for yourself, welcomeadventures.com is a great way to do it. We've got a bunch of cool rewards over there, and you can jump in a game with me or do a one-on-one chat to talk about how you need to now handle your player raising 2,000 undead for your campaign and what you need to do next. If you want to chat about that, you can sign up for one-on-ones and all kinds of stuff. So welcomeadventures.com is a great way to support the channel. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, I would love to have you subscribe. Every week I put out new videos on GM tips, player tips, tutorials, and more. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, just hit the subscribe button down below and come join us. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and thousands and thousands and thousands of undead. I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.
Yeah.